I just wanted to celebrate you because on this day you decided to watch this, or perhaps you see it in a group setting or somebody recommended you this. And remember, what we do here is to be strong and to be leaders in our field. And I tend to lead few groups just because I feel that I've done in my early career a little bit this choice to strive by myself, which limited me a little bit. And the beauty in having discussions, networking, and that's also what this channel is about, right? There is a big underlying personal development, which I see very relevant for everything we try to do here. But a lot of the things that we generally strive to do is career, right? And there is this book that got recommended to me, or a channel about your career, because we were talking with a friend of mine, and he's a senior executive and trying to think and go to a next stage, and what is really fulfilling for him. He's spending a lot of time, just like you probably, in front of the screen. And this book from Benjamin Todd, it's called The 80,000 Hours. And I like the headline because it has a ridiculously in-depth guide about how to find a perfect career for you. And they did, I think, almost 10 years of research alongside academics, Oxford, and it has to do about choices, career decisions, and directions where you should go with your career. What is the dream job? Which global problems are the most pressing? Which jobs have an impact? And how to discover or develop your strength. So, you were probably anyway attracted to this because I want to talk today about the resilient teams, and I want to talk about how to create resilient teams. And I share a little bit what I'm going to share with you in a little bit different shape and form in different groups, but I just wanted to bring this a little bit to your repertoire, your skill repertoire, because I feel in today's, correct me if I'm wrong, many of us are in this grind and hustle 9 to 5, and then we maybe still try to do some projects next to it. Parallel, we managing different things, which cause us to sometimes not be very clear on what we want to do and how we want to do it, and it can slow us down the road because we have too many balls juggling. And it has an advantage, I can tell you, because I've been juggling a lot of balls in the air myself, from riding, and I see myself as a private trainer and writer, and alongside that I record podcasts. So I would say maybe even influencer, nano influencer, but you need to define that for yourself, and that takes time. But the thing is, with all of these tools that I try to provide you with, and I want to just give you one last analogy before we go into the little presentation I have for you. I brought my friend here for you today, the Cactus. You cannot see it, but it has, maybe you can, it has very narrow, I actually need to add some earth there. The whole kind of, grounding, it's not really deep. So the roots are very, very small. So that's why I got to fix this fellow. But what I like about this, and that's what we're going to talk about, resilience. I love cactus plant in general, just because it is so strong and so resilient. Even with little, it's happy. Take a sip of water. A little bit of water. It doesn't need much. And I think this is what we want to be like, right? We want to be optimizing ourselves over the long time. And you see behind me, I have a massive cactus plant, which actually I saved from the neighbors, and it was in a cellar for over the winter. So I have it now here maybe 3 years, and you can maybe see the top part probably where about my finger kind of starts. All the way up it grew. It was totally brown. As you can see, some parts still didn't correct. But what I again like about cactus, it is resilient. It can survive a lot of things, and so are you. And I want you to take this analogy with you anywhere you go. Work, we talked about that, home, relationships. I want you to be strong, and I want you to be really powerful. And not just because you can, but because you're a human. You're a human adaptation machine. I'm currently rewriting the first version of a book and it's called The Resilient Adapter. And I really hope to have this book kind of in a decent shape done this year. And it's I have written different guides along the way. So if you're interested, there are probably different ways how you can get into some PDFs and just something that is really accessible to you, or some of these type of slideshows that I'm gonna share with you. But I just really feel that we need to fuel ourselves with this, because we have this resilient nature in us, but we need to remind ourselves, like, I don't know how your morning is, and sometimes our mornings can be rough because we wake up and then we snooze through our alarm, and then we need to do our workouts and go straight away, bring the kids and go shopping, and there's like Mondays and a huge list, and it can slow us down a little bit in what we want to accomplish if we are not careful with our time. And that's why I want to kind of challenge you with these sessions to really think about how well are you optimizing your life as a leader, as a stay-home mom, as an executive, as a CEO or advisory person. You have, and we all have, multiple roles. And sometimes, one role we are shining, another one we are a little bit, getting through the motion, hoping to survive. Life is a little bit like that sometimes, and that's okay. So don't beat yourself up, but I want you to think actively, you know, about Cactus. Are you like in the Cactus? Most likely you are. But do you need to be Cactus in the next season of your life? Perhaps, you joined a startup, it's hard, you need to strap down. The stress is going to be resilient, but the stress is going to be high, and you need to be resilient. But it also means you need to let go of stress somewhere. Maybe you need to make a tough choice about your career. So that's why Sundays for me are great to optimize ourselves and to think about where we want to go. So let me share a little presentation with you guys. So I want to talk about today with you about the strategies for success in a multicultural environment. The thing is, we live in multiculti world, and there's a lot that is coming at us from all directions. And the only thing how we can handle that is to be humble and really remembering why we do things. And sometimes just the over the top or the general stuff that we already know or studied can help us to actually win the day. And in this short little workshop, as I see it, I want you to be active. I want you to be talking to the screen, even if it's just one way kind of street and I'm talking to you. I want you to think about the slides. I want you to think about where you're at with your life, where you at with your kind of ways of optimizing your cultural heritage, or using your cultural heritage and optimizing yourself further. We're gonna talk about the intro, a little bit where you come from. We talk about adapting the growth mindset, which I feel it's a huge topic. Then we're gonna talk about cultivating the grit, then developing cultural intelligence, fostering cultural of growth, and lastly, embracing diversity and inclusion. So I hope you're ready. Take a sip of water, have a pen and paper ready, and let's go. So who we are. This is a huge important part. I feel that, I was born in Eastern Europe, and knowing that brings me to different situations. And sometimes, like I say, I'm somewhere probably between introverted, extroverted guy, just because Eastern Europeans tend to be a little bit more introverted. But I remember that where I'm from, there are some norms, there are some values, there are some guidelines. And I used to guide and gauge my interactions with people. The same should be for you. In our multi-culti meetings, we need to be gentle to ourselves, but also to others, respectful. So remember, just like my dad used to, tell me, remember where your home is. This is huge. And we forget that as we go along, as we move along, we kind of, swing by and forget that things actually are not always as they seem. So remember, things can be special and make kind of be done in a special way when we remember who we are. You can also really quickly remember who you are when you have come across the book from Carol Dweck, Mindset, and it's about adapting the growth mindset, the difference between fixed and growth mindset. So a little bit, like I said, where you come from can be a little bit your fixed heritage, your fixed mindset. So you have certain beliefs, certain norms, and you don't want to change. I've seen it when I moved to the Netherlands, and I think that's, to my opinion, also one of the countries in Europe which is amazing to experience multicultural life without being judged. And whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, or different color, nobody really cares. And that's, I think, the beauty. So remember, you want to embrace a little bit as you go through moving away. Let's use that as an example. You want to move abroad, or you have moved abroad. If you're here, I consider you a multicultural human being. You need to embrace the growth mindset, which means you will need to gather some intelligence about who you are, but also who others are, and understand how that fits together, how you need to adapt, change some of these norms, beliefs, and values, or not really change, but maybe optimize them, tweak them, improve them, and start operating together in this diverse team. Another very important part of this building a resilient team, if you're a team leader, or if you just have a side project, right? You want to bring different people together, or you bring different groups together, like a different masterminds and little DEI communities to support some movement. You need grit. You need a passion for what you're doing. And I feel that it can be very visible. And again, talking about wearing different hats, it can be very visible in one area. Let's say, you create a group, but very invisible in other parts, like health, where we neglect that. And many people, unfortunately, do. So as you think through these slides, think about it, not just one, and one way to do it, but really multiple ways of doing it. This is kind of my takeaway on this. And I always try to position it a little bit broader, because then you have the possibility to use really the efforts you put forward and interests, and really make a difference despite failures, adversity, plateaus, and progress. Again, remember, grit will be very important for building a resilient team. How can you enhance grit? In my opinion, it can be done in 3 different ways, but these 3 ways, this is how I would do it. I would set clear goals for, and short-term goals, maybe for how I'm building the team, what type of culture I want to build, what type of mindset I want to create, and reflecting really in a second point on the experiences, either good or bad, how, if I'm moving, when I was moving to the Netherlands, it wasn't easy, right? I needed to learn language. So I needed to work different jobs to pay for my studies. I was dating also a person with different cultural heritage. So there were already multiple things. Some experiences were good, some experiences were bad, or, lessons to be learned. And I needed to embrace those. And the last piece and pillar that will help you is practice deliberate habits and stretch. So whether that habit can contribute to enhancing grit, or it's meeting people every week to be stronger and stick to your healthy habits, or gather around 5 different cultures so you can understand what makes them tick. You need to do that really diligently in order to see difference. So take a sip of water as the habit dictates, and let's continue. The subsequent piece that I see here as super relevant is developing cultural intelligence, the CQ. So in my opinion, a cultural intelligence is the capability to relate and work effectively across cultures. There's a book from David Livermore, and there are different books that I will mention as well throughout these presentations, or in general presentation now, but there are books that can help you really to optimize. And I'm always a little bit of an advocate, try to figure it out by myself. But as I get older, I figured, it's always good to see what is out there. And maybe you don't need to always reinvent the wheel. You just have to be you. And that's how you can develop culture intelligence. Is be humble and learn. You can also develop culture intelligence. And I shared this actually exact slide in an article this week. So I believe that the cognitive quotient is really about understanding cultural norms. So we talk about the first start or the piece about where you come from. That's your baseline. And you already, as you move abroad, which I believe you maybe are about to do or want to do or have done, you inherited some of these norms from the new culture. So you build that kind of new way of thinking, new way of interacting. And that also showed in the second piece, which is the physical quotient, which is adapting your behavior and body language to different cultural contexts. So if you're, in the Netherlands, you're probably gonna be exposed to people who are more direct, tell you what they think. Business situation will be also directly going to business rather than just like Italy and Spain sitting somewhere, half an hour talking about who you are and, your family. It's different, right? Low context, high context cultures, more hierarchy, like maybe China or Japan, or less hierarchy, like the Netherlands. And the last piece is really about emotional and motivational quotient. So it's the confidence and motivation to engage with cultures. So yes, you will already learn through the second piece because you're already doing something by having to optimize. But the thing is, the second piece is not really motivating you to do and change and adapt. You can do it, but you can still act according to your old norms and being conservative and trying to only be, believing only in your values and not seeing others as they truly are. And I think this is the third piece why the emotional motivational part comes in, because it's really your decision to change and to adapt and to really understand others and different cultures. And you can also improve that by fostering a culture of growth. So we talk about a growth mindset. So I really now would assume that you already want to grow and you want to adapt to new culture. So it's about creating a new environment, encouraging growth, and that's the beauty, right? Regardless of the values, the heritage, the background, the age, the color, the race, we can create this inclusion based on diversity and learn, significantly to enhance the performance innovation. And that's again, as I said, throughout the presentations and the different ones that I will do, but also throughout this presentation, creating culture of growth is really a good one by Mary C. Murphy. So there's another one that's just going to mention to you in a second. But before we go there, how can you foster the culture of growth? Again, there are probably 1,000 ways of doing it, but I feel, especially where I live, which at the moment is in, the German side, and the Germans, generally, I think the Western Europe, it's a lot about collaboration and diverse perspectives. The Germans, especially, everybody needs to be heard, which, in my opinion, sometimes can be very counterproductive, but it has the advantage that people can voice their opinion. At the same time, it also, a good resilient team supports risk-taking and safe space. And I think this is the hard part, right? I feel like if I'm looking at the companies I worked at and my own company that I, try to build or still kind of building in a different way now than a couple of years ago, it's really about creating a safe space for people to trust you, to know that you can get stuff done, but at the same time for people to express themselves and honor their strength and kind of improve their weaknesses. And you do that by providing constructive feedback. And it can be hard, especially if you're in a profit type of organization. It depends on if you work in corporate or if you work in a little startup. It can really be totally different. So just find a way, but I would encourage you to always be the linchpin. Don't leave that to HR. Don't leave that to the middle or upper management. It's your task. Even if you don't have a team, you have to be the person who cheers other people on, who supports others, helps others, and get really stuff done by including other people in the conversations and accomplishing the goals together. So, one more opportunity for you to take a sip of water. Remember, Cactus, even if it doesn't like so much water, it still needs water. It, so be a cactus. Remember, that's a good thing to be. Be a cactus. Be resilient. You're strong. You're really stronger than you think, and that's how you can build a resilient culture by just mindset alone. And yes, you need skills, yet you need all these fancy different books that you can read. But really, if you boil it down, it's about decision that you want to be a good human being, kind, and help others. And this is the slide I was really looking forward to because it's about cultural map, creating for yourself kind of cultural understanding. Again, if you live in, I don't know, Netherlands, I think this is a good opinion, a good option, because then you will meet Asians, Chinese and Japanese, and then you will meet Africans from different parts of Africa. You will meet Eastern Europeans, so like the Polish, Ukrainians, all different type of people, right? Americans, and I think it starts with the unique contributions and appreciating those individuals for who they are and where they come from, and learning from that. It's really interesting because I was coaching a guy, I think a year ago. It was an American guy. Got to know him here down in Germany, and with his wife, they actually had to move back. But we were almost a year kind of working together on some fitness goals and some other relationship goals that he had with his, mom, and it was really actually a great exercise for me because at the same time there were like a few more people that were interested to work, through their problems and challenges. And, through this humble exercise, I was just so reminded that we are not so different, right? Like, be it, maybe 5 years ago, I would need that somebody help me with that exact topic. And it's really cool that we can just help one another. And I feel this, diversity and inclusion can be still very tricky here in Europe because we have so many opinions and so many cultures. You just drive an hour and you're maybe in Austria, which is quite the same language, if you will, but if you say it like that, the Austrians would get probably very offended, right? You have a different regional kind of part of the language, but it's very interesting, and that's why I just want you to be sensitive as you go along. See yourself as this master of cultures, be including people into conversations, and have this vision that you are part of a global team. Maybe even create for yourself the role, if you can, or join an organization where you lead a global team. And I think it's super rewarding because it shows that the world the world's problems can be solved when we put our heads together. So you yourself can enhance the culture by, just to sum this up, valuing different perspectives, promoting equity or equality, and building trust. It's pretty much what I said, right? You are open-minded to different cultures. And again, if you want to take the step, and want to move to the Netherlands and need some advice and support, please let me know. Or maybe to Germany, it's also super, different, or Spain, where I lived. And it's good to challenge yourself because the whole notion of moving to a new culture is super hard. I can tell you, I struggled and I underestimated heavily how difficult that is. And that's why you need a third piece, right? You need to surround yourself with people who are high caliber people who can help you. And when I was younger, I always over relied on myself, and I felt like I always asked in a wrong way for people to help me, and I didn't invested enough in the relationship before, so it came across as genuine. And that's what a lot of people do in different cultures, maybe because where I come from, right? I just didn't know. I was very focused on getting everything done by myself, but sometimes and often in today's collaborative world, as you just understood throughout this presentation, people actually more often than not work together and need to work together collaboratively. which causes us to kind of step outside our, as I call it, a shy leader role. And, being myself, grew up as an introverted, so I'm between introvert and extrovert, believe it or not. It helps to remind yourself that you can actually change, you can improve yourself, you can be a better human being by kind of going. And that's what I write about in this resilient adapter, that you need to adapt. And we are human adaptation machines, as Tom Bilyeu says. And it's a brilliant way to kind of segue towards the end, that we as human beings can change, we can adapt, we can improve, and we can find our way of doing things in a good and positive way. And is it easy? Of course not. It brings a lot of setbacks and a lot of actually challenges with it when you work with different cultures, right? From different language, different norms, different opinions, bigger teams, right? There are so many things that already make it more complex. Even if you work with people from the same country, right, and they use the same language, it still can be very hard. So I hope this inspired you a little bit, because for me at least it was a little bit inspiring. I'm talking to myself, right? But I just use this as a kind of reminder that we are not alone in this world. Although a little bit depending where you live, it might feel like that, and it might, the remote work might encourage this, I do things by myself and I don't need maybe anybody else. But as you could see, it's 80,000 hours in our life, and most likely it's even more than that, just because if you're like me and other high strivers and achievers, usually crank up way more hours during the week than what's expected of you. And that's for a reason, because you have high ambition, you have high goals, and you have high standard for your family, right? Where I come from, what maybe the salary that when I was started, or starting with, in my first career, maybe with 30,000, it's totally different comparison where what we are capable of, right? And or where I was growing up, maybe in Eastern Europe, and the type of salaries we were earning, or kind of I was earning when I was a cashier. It's not comparable to the living standard now. And it has advantage because we can keep improving, but at the same time it creates, how would you put it, a little bit a pressure on our way of living, because people constantly chase money and forget to take care about themselves, take care and watch topics and learn from topics like these, which actually are very rewarding when we understand cultures and we do things for the right reason. So I hope this helped you. It was fun. Maybe not my best presentation, but I hope you kind of went with me all the way. And please provide feedback. Let me know if there are some topics that you're interested in. Please be like my friend. I have a couple of cactuses here, like my friend Cactus. I think I will just go and give him more earth. He deserves it. You deserve, more in your life. So go and get it. Remember, when you knock on the door of opportunities, hard work is what answers. We don't like that answer. I don't like the answer. Especially when I wake up some days and I'm like, I would love to lie whole day, watch Netflix, eat chips. We all would love that, right? But remember, building resilient teams is a choice, and we need it. We need you in times when economy is downshifting. The automotive is not doing well. In general, in Europe, people are worried about their jobs. You can be the linchpin. You can be the lighthouse. You can be the resilient adapter. And I want to conclude here, if you're interested in, some type of more engagement, more ideas that you need, or some work to work around, cultures, around networking, about how to get outside your shell as a introverted leader or shy leader, let me know. I went through this. I'm still going through this, but it's fun, and it's fun to do that together. There are different ways how you could do that through some of the stuff that I have written, or programs that I'm or have created or creating, or some groups that I'm leading. Let me know. I'm happy to help. So until the next time, stay legendary. Remember, there are also podcasts that I have or currently update, or YouTube. Matteo Milliger, or the Shots of Inspiration on Spotify, or that Fit Fun